Hi, team, and welcome to a very exciting webinar today because we're going to be interviewing Moses and Darlene Wilson, who are Crown Presidentials with First Fitness Nutrition. And I have titled this interview, The Opportunity That Changed Everything. And you might think, well, it's the opportunity that changed everything just for Moses and Darlene. But in my personal and humble opinion, it changed it for myself and for First Fitness Nutrition. You might say, how is that possible? Well, Lee Carsey and myself started First Fitness Nutrition in August of 1989. And this month, we are celebrating 37 years of being in business, changing people's lives, both physically and financially. But what a lot of people don't know is I was the company's first team member. So I had to start building a business. I didn't have any existing customers and I didn't have any existing team members. And so one person at a time, I would get someone on the product, I would build their confidence up with the product, and then that would lead to them taking a look at the business opportunity. Well, fast forward 1 year, this is October now of 1990, and I get this phone call from Moses Wilson, and it is that phone call that changed everything. So please help me welcome Crown Presidentials, Darlene and Moses Wilson to our presentation. Hey guys, welcome.
Hi, Nigel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're glad to be here this evening.
You know, what I wanted to do, Darlene and Moses, is talk about what made you get started. What did you do to get started? We can see the success that you have produced, you have experienced over time. But I think most people want to know, well, how did you get started? So, Darlene, my first question is, we always hear about Moses Wilson called Nigel, right? But it was actually you that made the decision to join First Fitness Nutrition. Can you speak to that?
Yes, thank you. The opportunity was brought to me. There was a concept product that the company had that really looked good. It was good. But I knew that if Moses was going to have any interest, the compensation plan had to be right. So I reviewed that. Wow, it made really good sense. So it was at that point, even though I already knew I was going to sign the application, that's when I called Moses from the other room and introduced it to him.
It was at that time, Nigel, that it was the product at that time that piqued my interest. Darlene's right. I would have focused on the compensation plan, but we had a product that was unique. And I thought to myself, someone's going to make a lot of money with this product. Might as well be us.
Yeah. And you know, when I think about that, let's talk about what that product was. So we had Renew and we had Trimbolic at the time. So we had those two products when you guys initially got involved. And then we were pre-launching a nutritional product that was going to be in the form of candy. And it was basically eat candy and lose weight. And it was, I think, that concept, we were running an ad in the USA Today and an industry magazine that got Darlene's attention. So, Moses, you then called me in October. So you and Darlene signed your application in October of 1990. A few weeks later, you called me and you said, Nigel, you don't know me, but you're going to know me. And 36 years later, here we are. Tell us about that phone call.
So, Nigel, I hope I don't surprise you with this comment, but after just a short time with First Fitness, we had made the decision that we were going for it. In fact, Darlene signed our application as presidential directors, which was the top position at that time. So we were talking one evening, and someone said, suppose this is a company that's just operating out of their garage. We need to go check them out. So my phone call was actually inviting myself to come check the company out. Little did I know that the tables would be turned and the company would come check us out.
And what was life like when you made the decision to pursue the First Fitness opportunity?
It's interesting because with the previous involvement in a network marketing company that did not have the integrity that First Fitness had, we had experienced success, but then it disappeared. And so at that time, we found ourselves in a struggling position, which let me tell you, to have experienced success and then to lose it is hard on the entire family. The children were pulled from the lifestyle that they had been used to, private schools and things like that. So the emotion about that was very difficult.
Yeah, I would say that we were searching for an answer, looking for a way to get back into the business that we knew could change everything. And that's what we found in First Fitness.
And, just for our audience listening today, back in 1990, we didn't have mobile phones. We were still using landlines and fax machines. So we weren't able to keep up with team members around the country's activity with downline reports and all the tools that we have today. But in January of 1991, that second phone call came in, and you said, we are ready to do a hotel meeting. And would you come in and support that meeting? Now, before we talk about that meeting, what was it that you were doing from October to January in building your business? And I almost want to say a little bit handicapped, because what a lot of people didn't realize is that when you joined First Fitness, just like Darlene said, you were involved in a company that let you down, and you had some financial setbacks that really gave you the motivation to put a lot of effort into building your First Fitness business. Can you tell me, how did you get started? What were the activities that you were doing when you were building your business initially?
Well, I can tell you what started that very day. We signed the application, or maybe even as we were signing the application, we had the person wait. We went to 2 separate rooms and we wrote a list. Yes, that basic list. Here's what people do that we didn't do. We didn't say no or yes for anybody. We just compiled a list. I forgot, how many names did we have?
So when we came together, our list totaled 400 people. It's a lot of people. So right away, we had to develop a strategy on how we would approach them. Something I read, something I had experienced, said that the average person could deal with about 5 people, right. Could manage 5 people at a time. So on our list, we went down the list and we put B by those people that we wanted to invite into the business, and we put P by the people that we wanted to sell product to. We picked 5 people from each list. The ones for the business, we invited into our living room for a meeting. And we had an opportunity meeting, talked about the comp plan, and we set goals for them. I think that was like October 24th or something like that. And we said to the 5 people there that we needed them in their first month to make the director position. Back then, Nigel, that was, what was it, $4,000 or $5,000?
That was $4,000 in personal.
Yeah, so they had to do that in their first month. Surprisingly, 3 of them did it that first week. So we were off and running with that. And then with those who were targeted for product, we were doing home shows almost every single day. We would actually count the number of home shows we would have in a week and then, of course, in the month. And we trained our people to do the exact same thing. So
right. And we allowed the people to grow too. It wasn't about us. And we knew immediately to help them grow into their success. I want to say this too. We did, yes, start out for maybe 2 weeks in our home. And then it's like, okay, well, these are strangers. So we allowed the business to grow our facility. What do I mean by that? At that time, you could, if you went to a Denny's or somewhere like that, if everybody got a coffee and a salad or whatever, then you could have a meeting room. So we allowed the business to grow, like I said, our facility, because we were still coming away from a very unique financial situation.
But we could only do 2 of those meetings at a Denny's before we got too large to do that.
Right.
And we went to our first hotel meeting. So our first hotel meeting, we had over 200 people attend that first hotel meeting. Quite a few of them signed up as distributors. Nigel, I think it would be too simplistic to say that by this time the business was already exploding.
And Moses and Darlene, you had a unique way. You're talking about how many opportunity meetings or home shows you were doing per week. But can you tell the team how you were doing that? Because you were duplicating that. It wasn't you doing all of them. You had a system.
Now, the system we had was that we started training our distributors to do home shows. And the system was very simple. We would do 3. So we would do the first one, we would do all of the work.
Right.
All they had to do was get the people there. We would set up the display. We would conduct that home show. On the second home show, we would invite them to participate,
Right.
so that they're learning to present, which is extremely important, but they're learning. So they would take half, whether it was the product, probably the product, and we would take the compensation plan. But then on the third one, we would let them know that this is their show and we're going to be there to support them, but we want them to conduct the show from beginning to end. And then afterwards, we would congratulate them. We would also critique them, but they would never know we were critiquing them, because it was always positive reinforcement. And then we would help them set up their schedule for home shows.
Wow. And I love that, because just from a training standpoint, let me reiterate that. So your first home show with your brand new team member, you and Darlene showed up, they invited the guests, you do the whole presentation.
Mm-hmm.
The next presentation, because they've got guests now, you're inviting their guests to come back to the second one. You're letting them participate, probably doing the welcome, the product presentation, and you're doing the compensation plan and what I refer to as a little bit of the cleanup, because you're experienced at it. Third one, they're doing it on their own and you're cheering them on, and that's how you create a duplication.
Absolutely.
Nigel, one little thing, and it might sound small, but what we also encouraged our customers, at the point they were still customers, to do was to save their empties, because it was growing so fast. We couldn't possibly have enough display products for them. So we found that in saving their empties, they would actually order more because they wanted to have a full display of the products we had at that time.
Yeah, and I apologize, Nigel. You have gotten us so excited. I want to share this with you too, because this was the tool we used to create more customers. We created this thing that was called First Fitness Bucks. It was worth $1, but we would give you First Fitness Bucks for each referral.
Right.
That you would, let's say you didn't want to become a team member, didn't want to do a home show, but we would give you a First Fitness Buck for each name that you would refer to us, and you could use those as value to purchase your products. So that was a phenomenal program. People just loved getting those First Fitness Bucks, and they would give us referrals, and we would make one caveat with the referral. And that was, when we call your referral, can we use your story? And I got to tell you, that was phenomenal.
But I want to also share, one of the things that helped us fill that room is that everywhere we went, where we were spending money, they had to support what we were doing. So I remember one of the nail salons I was going to. Oh, yeah. I said, let me do this. I said, can you refer people? to me. She said, sure. I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a number. And when people call, I'm going to write on the brochures on what we had, what your number is, then we will give you a discount. She said, okay. Then at a certain point, she realized that we were making a lot of money on her referrals. And she said, I don't want to give you any more referrals. May I please become part of it? You absolutely can, because that was our plan all along.
You know, and just to bring everything together, you join in 1990. We do our first hotel meeting in February of 1991. I come to that meeting and I am blown away, because I'm doing my own meetings in Dallas and I'm having, you know, somewhere between 25 and 30 people a week. And you and Moses put 250 people in that room. I'm telling you, I didn't need a plane to fly back to Dallas. And it was from that event that changed the entire course of my life, because team, here's what you need to know. I was indirectly Moses and Darlene's sponsor. So whoever brought them into their business was in my organization. So can you imagine how excited I was? All of a sudden, I've got this team getting started in Detroit, Michigan, and it starts really growing well. And then it went from Michigan to Maryland, and it went to Florida and Ohio. And that's how it works. So 16 months later, you're chief presidential director. Now, that was the top position. What do you attribute to achieving that title as quick as you did?
So first of all, we want to say that the achieving presidential then was very difficult.
Oh,
It's not like achieving presidential today.
no.
So the key, though, was never really focusing on our success, but focusing on the success of others.
Right. And that what we had to do to become presidential, you may remember the numbers, but I want to go back to when we signed our application, and I think Moses mentioned it. We looked at the comp plan. That was extremely important. The top position, as it was mentioned, was presidential. So we saw ourselves as nothing less, because to help people achieve growth, we had to be the top we could be. So we signed our application, Darlene and Moses Wilson, presidential directors. That's on our initial application. Can you remember what was required back then to be a presidential?
So I know you had to have 9 first level directors who were doing 4,000 a month, but I think you also had to have 25 second generation marketing directors who were also doing 4,000 a month. So it was a layered qualification. But what it did, Nigel, it ingrained the basics of what network marketing is all about. So Darlene and I didn't create this expression. However, it dominated the way we dealt with our distributors. And it was this: never do anything other people can't copy.
Right.
So that is what created the duplication. And I have to also say that it was impossible at that time for me to sit down for lunch or whatever the setting was with anyone and not pull out a napkin and do what we called a napkin presentation to show the compensation plan. And I do believe that my personal excitement about the comp plan and the possibilities it created was somewhat contagious, because we had so many people who came in. Initially, they were excited about the product, but they came in because the compensation plan meant so much.
What else would you let our team know as far as nuggets that you would recommend they continue to do?
First of all, recognizing who I am as a person, embracing who I am, getting to know who I am, and then what I can share with people. And being consistent, taking care of myself, taking care of my family, but recognizing, actually, I'm going to use an illustration of a plant, recognizing that in growing a plant, and there's a reason for this, that they need consistency. I have to talk to my plants. That's a proven truth. They have to know, plants have to know you care. Our team, our individuals, our customers have to know we care. Recognizing that a new team member is really a customer that's signed an application. They still need the nurturing, the caring, but how often you water a plant, you have to know that plant, what soil that plant needs. You have to know what soil, what environment your new teammate, your new customer needs. You have to build belief that you're pulling them away from a grounding that they're used to. So what do you need to make them feel secure? This becomes just part of a daily thing. And if you want a successful plant, you have to learn to keep learning. Never get so arrogant that you can't learn. And as conditions change in the environment that your teammate is going through or that you're going through, learn to go to tack to the wind, you might say, and support them. And never quit. You don't get discouraged. You don't say, oh, I'm just going to forget the whole thing. You never quit. You keep going. You may have to cut off what isn't working, but supporting what is. And again, continue to change, recognize what the trends are, what may be pushing away from growth. And then, like I said before, being willing to adapt and change.
Nigel, if I could add something to that, because on this list of things you have becoming coachable and developing leadership skills, I have to tell you, some people may feel they're natural born leaders, but most people don't. What they need to understand is that they can develop leadership skills, and it takes leadership in order to direct a team, to guide a team. So one of the things that I did is I involved myself into as much leadership activity as I could, using anybody who had something to give me as a coach. You know, you go with Tony Robbins, you go with Brendon Burchard, you go with whoever has the tools. And then you also have to build belief in what you have. The idea of quitting, that just never, ever occurred. Just constantly moving forward.
There's one more thing I want to say. It's important for your team, even your customers, to know that you don't think you know it all. So you always want to give third-party influence note to them. In other words, let them know you're still learning. As I mentioned before, you're still growing, but that it's good, it's okay, it's smart to reach outside of yourself, that you don't have all the answers. That way they don't feel discouraged if they have to get answers from a third party. You want them to know there's things put in place by a company like First Fitness that they can reach out to continue to support themselves.
And we would tell people that momentum could be compared to making a snowball. And at the top of a mountain, letting that snowball roll down the hill, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That concept was a visual aid that they could take and recognize how their business would grow. And I'm going to say for us with First Fitness, we were in momentum by our second month.
Right.
Wow. And talking about your second month, let's go to your first year. What was the amount of your first check?
I love that. I love that question because our first check, should have framed it, was $257, I think, and 53 cents or something like that. It was not over $300.
Yeah, that was for 7 days worth of work.
And what about at the end of the first year, Moses?
Well, by the end of our first 12 months, we had made over $100,000.
Right.
And what's the largest monthly check you've made in a single month?
So our largest monthly income was about $44,000.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's fantastic. All right, we're building. We're into some momentum. We're in our second year, and we are doing this big event at the Detroit Convention Center. I think it's called Cobalt Hall, and we are bringing in a very famous Harlem Globetrotter by the name of Meadowlark Lemon, who was a team member with First Fitness. He was married to a team member in First Fitness, and he was also an endorser and spokesperson. What did you think when you walked into that convention center and there are over 800 people, Darlene? What were you saying to yourself?
I said, wow, this is a good beginning or a good continuance. We have to grow it larger. But what I was proud of was the fact that someone like Meadowlark Lemon, who had great respect in the community, in the world really, recognized the importance of First Fitness. He believed in the First Fitness product. So it was like, not that I needed it, but it was another stamp of approval. But as far as looking at the people, it wasn't, oh, look what we have. It was, look at the responsibility that we have to support their growth. Wouldn't you say?
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
key
no
nugget.
question about it. It was confirmation, Nigel, of the effectiveness of what we had done to that point. But having looked at that 800 people in the in Cobo Hall at that time, actually made me dream of having 25,000 people at the Palace in Auburn Hills at some point in time in the future. Now, the Palace is gone and has been replaced, but the idea of filling a stadium with distributors in our downline, that will never die until it becomes a realization.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and here we go. Building the business. You guys are doing amazing. You've changed my life. I mean, from that initial meeting that I attended in Detroit, 250 people in attendance, it was not a matter of months, and your organization is generating over $750,000 over a 3-month period in the first 2 years. Team, here's what you need to hear from that. I was a team member making a royalty override on that revenue. That's what can happen to you. Well, let's get past presidential. So now we've got presidential, we've got some key people achieving that. We add diamond and we add crown. 8 years later, here comes crown presidential. Speak to that, Darlene.
Well, I will say this, we didn't stop at diamond. The company encouraged growth and stability. So that's what we did. So when the Crown presidential opportunity became available, it was a lot of work, but the foundations that the company suggested were laid. So it just meant increasing our building. And we weren't the first. We were trying to be the first crowns. We weren't able to be the first. We were so proud to be the second. It changed our lives because, again, it gave hope to our people, and our team recognized. I remember when we accepted that, it was beautiful, but our team knew that they were responsible. It wasn't us. It was a team win. And we've always wanted our team to know that it's a team effort.
Yeah. So at that time, Nigel, to become crown today is easy compared to what it was then, because in addition, I think you had to have 25 first level marketing directors averaging 4,000 or in that month doing 4,000. Then you had to have a certain number on the second level and the third level. So the truth be told, you could get close this month thinking you're going to make it and be short one presidential director or things like that. So there were a couple of months we thought, oh, we got it this month. But then that didn't happen for one reason or another. But when it did occur, we were super excited because it was a major accomplishment, and it was proof that the system itself actually worked.
Well, and let me add to that. On the requirement, you had to earn $20,000 in royalty overrides each month for 3 consecutive months, in addition to the leg requirement. So, you achieved a tremendous milestone, but when you did that, Darlene, part of the lifestyle, if you will, we've got the products, they change your life, the opportunity changes your lifestyle, come the rewards, and part of the incentives that we have at First Fitness are the dream vacations, and you've earned so many incredible trips. I guess my question to you is, which one is the most memorable for you?
If I may, I'd like to speak to two. As far as destination Monte Carlo, why? Because the company had us helicoptered, and I remember people at the airport that we saw later on, and they had to drive, and we were helicoptered in, quite arrogant. I loved it. But the most memorable was a place we went to often was Hawaii. So why was that the most memorable? Because it wasn't just Moses and I. We had our children with us. And we will always thank you for that, because our children worked with us in the business. Our children worked hard with us. They actually would answer the phones. They actually supported coming to many of the First Fitness conventions because it was a family business. But by the family going on a dream vacation together, one of my most memorable thoughts was from our hotel room, looking down and watching our children waiting for the fish to wake up down in the pool, their little fish pool. That was so beautiful, because that helped our children to see there are no boundaries for hard work. You have a passport, because they did go with us to other countries, but to see them all there at that time, and that has continued in their lives. There are no boundaries. Our grandson has a passport stamped like I don't know what, because First Fitness allowed our children to travel past what the world might want them to go.
Yeah, it's awesome. Moses, when I look at this photo montage here, I have very special memories of that bottom left photograph, both good and bad, so to speak. What's the bad? Well, team, you've heard me talk about how I struggled with my weight. That has to be Nigel Branson at about 278 pounds before I lost 100 pounds and have kept it off. So there's my before picture, but that's Moses and I at the top of this mountain in Maui, and we were looking at the volcano. It was amazing. And then we drove down on those bicycles. Moses, you remember? I mean, it was just phenomenal.
It was phenomenal, Nigel. It's one of my favorites as well. Our son Lamar was with us on that, and that made it special. But can I tell you that for me, the most impactful dream vacation was the first one to Africa. And it wasn't because of the trip itself. It was because you invited me to go with you on a preview of the location. I got a chance to meet your mom. I got a chance to meet your dad. I got a chance to meet your brother. They made me feel like part of the family, which even to this day, and your sister as well. Such a wonderful experience. It's very rare that a person as a distributor will get that privilege. So I want to thank you publicly for that. That will always be a special memory.
Well, thank you. It's like the dream vacations are experiences you can't buy. It's when I think about dream vacations, I think about who I hang out with today. My friends consist of First Fitness team members that I've met indirectly through someone else, and they've become lifelong family friends. I mean, this is the relationships that you build. So yes, team, we've got more dream vacations that we're going to be launching, but I don't want you to think of it just as a destination. Think of it of a memory. Think of it of an experience that money can't buy. That's what you experience with dream vacations. Success has its rewards, and this is a awesome photograph of your Mercedes that you drive. But Moses, you told me the reward was never the car. It was what the car represented. Can you explain that to me?
Yes, because, material things in itself are not the meaningful aspects of it. Because you can go out, you can buy whatever car you can buy. But the reason why earning it is more than just the car is because you are setting the example for your team. They have to know that these goals are achievable. And one of the ways, most significantly, that they will know that is if you do that. Because the thinking for most people should be, if they did it, I can do it. But if you don't earn it, if you don't even work for it, the chances are you're setting up the wrong example. You're setting the wrong pattern of leadership. You want to make sure that you become the example to follow. And that's not by talking, that's by doing it.
Absolutely. Darlene, when I think about you and Moses being involved in First Fitness for 36 years, you have always showed up. You have never missed a New Year rally or a national convention. Can you speak to that, please?
Yes. There was only one. Moses was there. We had a loss in our family, but we've always shown it's important. It's not your team needs you, but we needed the convention. We needed the fortification. We needed to continue bonding arm to arm with other leaders, continue learning from other leaders, continuing hearing from the company, continuing that bond. It's important to show up, to be there. And there was a phrase from when you took us to be there now. In other words, not just be in the seats, but be giving attention to what's being taught. It may be one sentence like, oh, wow, I need to add that to what I'm doing. So showing up is extremely important. And we're going to continue to do so.
Yeah. And Nigel, Darlene mentioned something that I think is significant too. Aside from conventions and things like that, First Fitness as a company exposed us to leadership training that we would not have had outside of this venue. And that shaped the company to a great extent because those leadership skills we learned, we were able to share with our team members, and they made a major difference.
If I can just slide something in there, because you shared it with us and us to our team and our team, we shared that with our children. Our children excelled in university and in life because of some of the lessons that you exposed us to, that we took our children to. When we say it's a family business, it's not just about the money, it's about the whole thing. It's about the education, the growth, and the health.
Moses and Darlene, I have thoroughly enjoyed this interview. It's bringing back emotional memories for me. I've literally spent more than half my life with you guys building this business when you put it into perspective, right? So, Darlene, my question would be, in closing out, looking back over the last 36 years, what advice would you give every team member watching this presentation?
My advice is that a person makes a decision to be a living legend. What that means is finding out what your core beliefs are, what your core values are. And if they're not what they should be, make them higher. And then living with a decision to impact others with positivity. Be present in the moment. Stay active, stay alert to the changes, to the trends. Act with intent. Know what the values are of yourself and share the values of the company with others. Embrace growth, embrace change, and stay focused. That would be my suggestion, because you don't want to be a legend from the past. You want to continue to be a living legend in the present.
Yeah, I would add to that, never quit. But I would also say, You have to believe it in order to achieve it. So set your goals, believe you can accomplish them, and they will happen.
Moses, I want to ask you a final question here. You and Darlene have built this business consistently for 36 years. Being the leaders that you are, you know what is about to transpire at First Fitness Nutrition. And I believe that we are entering a new season of growth that we have never seen before. Can you shed light on your mindset and your enthusiasm and your encouragement to people watching this presentation?
Oh, absolutely. I would say that our enthusiasm for the business is greater today than when we first started. We believe that the potential that is ahead of us will exceed anything that we have experienced. I would not be surprised if we can set new standards in the industry. Now, having said that, that just means every team member needs to be able to see that vision, and our coordinated effort will make sure that that vision comes true. I believe it 100%, Nigel.
Well, I just want to say thank you for saying yes in October of 1990. Thank you for being loyal, for being faithful to leadership. You are leaders worth following. You have set an amazing example. You've changed my life as well as changing the lives of many thousands of people. Thank you for being who you are. And I want to say, we wish you continued success because you're not done yet. Thank you, Moses and Darlene.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Nigel.
All right, team. This is a presentation that I hope there were many nuggets that you received from this, that you were inspired, you were encouraged, and all you need to walk away from is this. You need to make a decision. You need to believe in yourself and know that anything is possible with First Fitness Nutrition. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everyone.